Insiders in the gathering and online. We welcome you this morning. We're going to start, we're going to begin today with a prayer song as we begin today. So let's do that. When I come to you in prayer, Lord, have mercy. When I wonder if you're there, Lord, have mercy. When I cannot find the way, Lord, have mercy. Should my heart begin to stray, Lord, have mercy. When I lay me down to sleep, Lord, have mercy. When the road ahead gets steep, Lord, have mercy. When I falter, when I fail, Lord, have mercy. May your kindness still prevail, Lord, have mercy. When I see your promises, Lord, have mercy. Knowing well that I am blessed, Lord, have mercy. Oh, may I never cease to ask, Lord, have mercy. Until I breathe my very last, Lord, have mercy. Yes. And how great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. How great and how great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. How great, oh, your faithfulness, oh God. And how great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. How great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. When I come to you in prayer, Lord, have mercy. When I wonder if you're there, Lord, have mercy. When I cannot find a way, Lord, have mercy. Should my heart begin to stray, Lord, have mercy. Oh,
have happened over the past many weeks. We will, just a note, we will talk in generality as we have children that are present with us. But as common that we do, we light a candle in solidarity. Today, we're going to do it a little bit differently. Joey and Gabby, do you mind joining me? I've written this out, so I'm going to read it just so I can make sure that it's communicated in the way we hope. My name is Michelle, and those of you that don't know, I am a part of the team here. Over the last 3 weeks, we've all been witness to tragic and ghastly events in this country: Buffalo, New York, Laguna Woods, California, and now Uvalde, Texas. With mixed ages in the room and online today, we will approach these with sensitivity, staying true to the unwavering commitment of solidarity that we do have together. It is more than obvious that policy and legislative changes are required and warranted, and those who hold positions of leadership should act swiftly to ensure all safety for everyone. Sadly, we have grown accustomed to apathy and scapegoating from elected officials, and so yet again, we will raise our collective voice in prayer and action. Today, tomorrow, and the days to come, we ask God to comfort those who grieve, who navigate the difficult roads of absence. We ask God to wake us from our slumber and our idolatries, for wrongs to be made right, and for decisions and changes to come that will safeguard the most vulnerable among us. Today, we will take a moment to light 3 candles. Each candle will represent Buffalo, Laguna Woods, and Uvalde. As we light these candles, we will be reading names, and they will be on the screen as well. Laguna Woods, California, John Chang.
Buffalo, New York, Celestine Cheney, Roberta Drury, Andre McNeil, Catherine Cat Massey, Margus D. Morrison, Hayward Patterson, Aaron Salter, Geraldine Talley, Ruth Whitfield, Pearl Young.
Uvalde, Texas, Irma Garcia, Ava Meyerless, Nevaeh Alyssa Bravo, Jacqueline Jackie Cesaris, McKenna Lee Elrod, Jose Manuel Flores Jr., Eliana Ellie Garcia, Uzziah Garcia, Ameri Joe Garza, Jayla Nicole Silguero, Eliana Cruz Torres, Xavier Lopez, Jace Carmelo Luvanos, Tess Mata, Miranda Matthias, Aletha Ramirez, Annabelle Rodriguez, Mate Rodriguez, Alexandria Lexi Rubio, Lila Salzera, Rogelio Torres.
To say names is important. If more details are needed, you obviously have access to them. We will not share them here. Today, and as always, there is elements on the table for a moment of partaking in the Eucharist, and if you're joining us online, you can grab those now. Today, instead of reading our normal Eucharist response, we will read a collective response that was written by our dear friend John Huckins, founder of the Global Immersion Project, an NPO which trains people of faith to engage our divided world in restorative ways. I would invite you to read along with me. We lament and cry and pray and think and advocate and have hard conversations and examine our own apathy and leverage whatever power we have in our pews, on our streets, and with our votes to undo the broken systems that are breaking innocent people. Lord, have mercy, and may the peace of Christ reign in the midst of our broken world. Amen. As we enter our time of Eucharist, please contemplate the broken body of Christ. As we do, pray for those who are broken today, for our legislative systems that are broken, and if there are broken or difficulties in your own life, may you bring them to the one who understands. We'll take a little bit more of an extended time today. If you would like to do this on your own, or if you want to do those at your table and take a moment of prayer and solidarity, we invite you to that now.
Be still, be still and know that in stillness and quiet that I am the Lord, and let go of your worries. Only one thing is needed, just to be still and know. Be still and know that I am the Lord. Just be still and know that I am the Lord. And be still and know that in stillness and quiet, know that I am the Lord, and let go of your worries. Only one thing is needed, just to be still and know. Be still and know that I am the Lord. Oh, be still, just be still and know that I am the Lord. Just be still and know I am the Lord. Be still and know. Oh, we know that you are the Lord. Be still and know that in stillness and quiet, know that I am the Lord. You can let go of your worries. Only one thing is needed, just to be still. That's all we have to do, is rest in your presence, Lord. Be still and know.
is built on nothing less than Jesus' blood and righteousness. I dare not trust the sweetest frame, but wholly trust in Jesus' name. And Christ alone, a cornerstone, weak made strong in the Savior's love. Through the storm, He is Lord, Lord of all. When darkness seems to hide His face, I rest on His unchanging grace. In every high and stormy gale, my anchor holds within the veil. My anchor holds within the veil. Oh, Christ alone, and Christ alone, cornerstone, weak made strong in the Savior's love. Through the storm, He is Lord, Lord of all. Christ alone, Christ alone, cornerstone, weak made strong in the Savior's love. And through the storm, He is Lord, Lord of all. He is Lord of all. You are Lord of all. Let's sing that again. My hope is built on nothing less than Jesus' blood and righteousness. I dare not trust the sweetest frame, but wholly trust in Jesus' name. But wholly trust in Jesus' name. Oh, we trust in you, but wholly trust in Jesus' name. Oh, Christ alone, cornerstone, weak made strong in the Savior's love. And through the storm, He is Lord, Lord of all. Christ alone, Christ alone, cornerstone, weak made strong in the Savior's love. And through the storm, He is Lord, Lord of all. Oh, I know through the storm, that through the storm, He is Lord, Lord of all. Through the storm, and through the storm, He is Lord, Lord of all.
Thank you, Dennis and Emma, for just sharing your gifts with us and leading us in that time. For those of you that don't know, my name is Brandon. I'm part of the team here at Alongsiders. This is my beautiful wife, Katie. We've been married for 12 years now, so yeah, it's getting pretty serious. We're going to be sharing with you today our reflection. This is the first time for both of us, and it's definitely stretching for both of us. But we're also grateful that we get to share what God has put on our hearts with all of you. First time.
Am I on? Can you hear me? Oh, it's turned on.
This is going just as planned.
Maybe I do this until it's on. Just a little bit about us. We've been part of this community. Thank you. For many years, I started coming when I started walking with the Lord in college, and Brandon followed suit about 6 years later. I am a graphic designer on the side, but a homeschool mom of 3 boys, mostly. And if you know anything about the Enneagram, we are both 9s, and deciding anything, let alone something weighty and significant, is a huge hurdle. We toiled and struggled all week and in the weeks, and especially this week, wanting to honor and be considerate of people affected.
Yes, so several weeks ago, as we started to process what we were like to share, the theme of hope kept popping up as we studied the Psalms, just going through our Lectio and just spending time journaling. But it's just felt so at odds and juxtaposed to what we have been seeing and experiencing in the world. A constant stream of tragedy and war just cultivated this feeling and sense of an undercurrent of fear and hopelessness around us. We did not need what happened in Texas to make us aware of our great need, but it put a spotlight on how painful and conflicted and hopeless things feel right now. The Bible is full of people and stories of lament and tragedy. Lamentations, Job, David, throughout the Psalms, sitting, bathing in sorrow, and yet so often there in the midst of these passages of deep sadness and despair is hope, boldly and intentionally planted. In this scripture from Lamentations, I will never forget this awful time as I grieve over my loss. Yet I still dare to hope. When I remember this, the faithful love of the Lord never ends. His mercies never cease. Great is his faithfulness. His mercies begin afresh each morning. I say to myself, the Lord is my inheritance. Therefore, I will hope in him. There's just so much to sift through, so much to consider and to address. We won't be able to do it all in our short time together here this morning. But we will do our best and just trust that the words that God has put on our heart will find the ears and hearts that need to hear it. And now the questions that we are asking ourselves and us as a community is how? How do we find hope in this? How do we thoughtfully and intentionally take action? What do we do when we feel overwhelmed by tragedy?
Yeah, last week Joey shared with us about pausing. It was so on point and appropriate, and looking back now, very prophetic of how to enter this conversation. And if you weren't here last week, go back and listen to it. It was really clear and helpful for the conversation. And there's so many reasons why pausing is so important. Taking time to check in with ourselves, taking time to process our emotions. What's going on? Am I feeling numb? Am I feeling apathetic? Why? And holding space to grieve, holding space for others to grieve. And we all grieve at different speeds or our processes are all different. And so giving space for that. It's important to pause so we know what comes next, so we're not reactionary and we can be intentional and we can respond in love. And what Joey said last week, there's power in the pause. There's a Psalm 62, and these verses are nested in between two pauses, two selahs. And it says, let all that I am wait quietly before God. My hope is in him. He alone is my rock and my salvation, my fortress where I will not be shaken. My victory and honor come from God alone. He is my refuge, a rock where no enemy can reach me. O my people, trust in him at all times. Pour out your heart to him, for God is our refuge. And we need to pause so we can rest and breathe and take refuge in him. Rest in his presence and in his love. These sacred pauses allow us to breathe so we can refresh our souls and be reminded of his presence and be reminded of our identity, of who we are. We are beloved sons and daughters of God. I think this is really important. And what I love at verse 5, it says, let all that I am wait quietly before the Lord. And waiting quietly has to be so intentional. I know for me, I have to be very intentional because those quiet moments don't happen at my house. I'm with all the time 3 very active, vivacious boys, and there's always some kind of contact sport happening in my living room. And so I have to be really intentional. Am I retreating? Am I being still like they sang this morning? Am I sitting in the silence? In the last couple months, something that's been really on my heart is those in-between moments. What am I doing in those in-between moments? Whether I'm cooking dinner and the kids are playing, or I'm in the car, or I'm getting dressed, my day is full of these little moments. And what am I doing with those moments where I could pause, I could be quiet and slow down? And I kept asking myself, am I using these moments to commune with God? Am I allowing him to be my refuge? Am I slowing down? Or am I choosing to just be distracted or numb or quickly grab my phone to scroll or call or text or something? And not that all those things are bad, but am I allowing those things to take up my in-between moments? Or am I choosing to nurture that relationship? I just kept asking myself those questions so I could be aware of those times. And I've totally seen a difference of how I respond, what I take on. Pausing and being still teaches us restraint. And becoming still before God enables greater discernment regarding what's the appropriate engagement or action moving forward. If I'm not taking that time to pause and just find refuge, then my anger, my hurt is placed elsewhere, or I'm not dealing with it. I know for me, that usually it's with my spouse or my kids. I'm quickly irritated or reactionary. And that's just led me to really work on those in-between moments. And so I'm not placing my anger and hurt on my family, and I can just slow down because I tend to try to carry too much, and then it doesn't help anything. It's hard to be intentional. So, and I love that psalm at the end. David writes, "O my people, trust in him at all times. Pour out your heart to him, for God is our refuge." And we have to pause so we can pour out our emotions, our heartache, and our worries and fears, allowing God to be our refuge and hope. He hears our cries, he hears our groans, and he offers peace. And his yoke is easy. And so I would just take those small moments. I know I do. I need to. And be intentional. And it could be just practicing breath prayer. The breath prayer that I love to do is breathing in, saying, Abba, I belong to you. So breathing in, Abba, and breathing out, I belong to you. And just sitting with that and breathing that and retreating and taking out the noise when you can and allowing these in-between moments to shape us so we can be anchored in love and then we can move to action.
In the Bible, the seas are often symbolize chaos and destruction. In Genesis 1, the creation story, the earth was without form in chaos, and the Spirit of God hovered over the waters. The story of Noah, the whole earth flooding, being destroyed. The story of Moses crossing the Red Sea and the sea consuming the Egyptian army following them. Psalm 69, David uses the seas as a metaphor of enemies surrounding him. In the New Testament, Jesus calms the seas as he's traveling with his disciples across the Sea of Galilee. In his book, With, Skye Jethani writes this about hope. Hope is the opposite of despair. When we see a random, chaotic universe, it is easy to slip into despair, believing there really is no purpose, no narrative shaping our destiny. Hope is the conviction that despite what we may see and experience, everything is not meaningless. But hope is an idea that seems to have lost some of its weight. We use the word in a way that means little more than wishful thinking. Like, I hope the Timbers win, or I hope it doesn't rain, or I hope this is going well. He continues, but hope is much more than wishful thinking or unfounded optimism. Biblically, hope is understood as a sure and steadfast anchor of the soul. That's in Hebrews 6:19. Hope is what allows us to keep our bearing in turbulent seas. It is the assurance that the chaos we experience in this world will not win. God's purpose will overcome. We can unintentionally be drawn or deceived to put our hope, or our primary ultimate hope, in other things, even good things, our spouse or significant other, our career, financial success, our government, political party or country, celebrities or whoever we are following on social media, where we get our news from, or even our churches and pastors. All too often, these things can wrongly become the thing our hope is in, which in turn only sets them and ourselves up for disappointment when they ultimately fail. As a people practicing the way of Jesus, we can and should be bearers of hope, encouraging and pointing to where we ought to be rooting our hope in God, in the source. And Skye Jethani just writes so well about hope. There's more. He writes, life with God offers a different understanding of hope, one not rooted in either our circumstances or in moral perfection. It begins by remembering that our calling, our sense of purpose and significance does not come from any external construct. Finding our hope with God rather than our circumstances means that if our external circumstances suddenly change, perhaps even tragically, our hope can remain intact. We can endure the storms of life that happen upon us suddenly, knowing that God is always with us. As followers of Christ, we place our trust and hope in the God who calms the seas and brings order out of chaos. It does not mean we won't be affected by tragedies. It means that we have the hope to endure. Placing our hope in Jesus does not give us permission to ignore the hurt and broken. It gives us the capacity to show up and offer whatever we have because we know we don't have to carry the full weight of the burden. Hoping in something greater as Christ followers gives us the freedom to be creative and radical with our love and generosity, crossing borders and barriers that some may tell us not to cross. Hope in Jesus means we do not sidestep or avoid conflict. It compels us to step in and contend for those most impacted by it. Basing our ultimate hope in the Lord does not mean we no longer need to learn. It helps us put things in perspective and bring a kingdom-oriented view to our situations. Being in relationship and communion with God allows us to extend beyond ourselves. It gives us the confidence and capacity to selflessly offer ourselves to others. When we are anchored and rooted in Jesus, it calls us to action.
Yeah, so what do we do with all of this? Part of the reason it's important to pause is to reflect and decide how we can respond in our network, in our community, our circle, learning with an open heart and be willing to be interrupted or changed.
And just like Katie talked about earlier in regards to processing our grief, we are all in different places in our process, in our capacity for grief. We're also in different places in capacity for action, but we can all do something. In order to avoid the feeling of being paralyzed by the magnitude of the problem, start with something small.
Yeah. Your presence matters. Showing up matters. How do we show up? We can simply reach out to a neighbor or call a friend and see how they're doing after dropping their kids off. Can make a huge impact. And you decide how is God leading you to do that? If we take on too much, then we get overwhelmed and we go back in the cycle of just talking or sharing online and not, or becoming apathetic or numb to it. We have a book at our house called The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse. Do you guys know that? It's by Charlie Mackesy. Every time we read it to our kids, I feel like I get rocked. It's really simple, profound imagery. It's beautiful, and this particular image was so impactful to me. I don't know if you guys can read that. "You are so small," said the mole. "Yes," said the boy, "but you make a huge difference. And who God created us to be is enough." And I believe that God is a God that restores, who wants restoration, who wants to mend broken things. And so that starts with our life and where He's placed us. And sometimes that means just showing up and listening.
Yeah, this image just before this boy was sitting alone. And I feel like that's just such an important thing, that just to point out that just one other person, you are no longer alone, that you're not alone. I just want to make sure you hear that, and if you need to reach out, that's just such an important thing. Every week we have a time of engagement. This week we would like you to use this time to consider these questions and write down some action steps that you will plan to take this week. Here's the questions. Where are your in-between moments that you could use to pause? When will you pause this week? Write it down. Where has God uniquely placed you? Where can you invest in your city, your school, your neighborhood? Write a name down of a person you will reach out to this week. And what is one creative way to bring hope to those around you? Bake cookies, write a note, be creative. He has given us imagination that we can use for love. What is one thing you have placed too much hope in and would be a helpful step to realign that hope? So take some time, process these questions, share with those around you, either at your table or that you're sitting with. We'll just take some time together in that. hopefully that was a fruitful time for all of you to sit and talk with one another. So much of this, and it's appropriate that we call this a reflection, because this is so much looking in the mirror at what we needed to hear and what we needed to process as we went through this ourselves of preparing for what we were going to share this morning. Hopefully you have some action steps to walk away with. It's maybe the coach in me, but I just encourage you to ask somebody to check in with you too, like see how you're doing with what you wrote down, see how it's going, just to have somebody to bounce that off of.
Yeah, Dennis will just lead us, or not lead us, just play over us. Feel free to linger, pray with each other. We're going to be up here if anybody needs prayer. We would love to pray with you, but take the time you need and just be with each other and then be on your way. Thank you.